Have you ever had the strange feeling that something was wrong in a relationship, but couldn't quite put your finger on it? Have you ever felt that certain words, though seemingly innocent, carried a destructive charge that shook your self-esteem and peace? If the answer is yes, it's essential that you stay until the end of this video, because what we're about to reveal here could completely change the way you view your relationships. Before we get straight to the content, subscribe to the channel now and turn on notifications. This isn't the place for generic speeches. This channel is about opening your eyes, revealing truths that no one has the courage to speak, and protecting those who really want to live in a healthy relationship. Every week there's a new video with content that can help you see what was invisible before. So subscribe now, because you won't want to miss the next chapters of this journey. Now, imagine the following scenario. You meet an incredible woman. She seems intelligent, engaging, charming, and over time you start to open up, thinking you've finally found someone worthwhile. But little by little, she starts saying certain things. They're just words, right? Nothing loud, nothing that seems aggressive at first. But the impact of these phrases goes beyond what the ears can pick up. They go straight to the mind and begin to undermine your confidence, your balance, and your identity. These phrases, which you will learn today, are like traps. They are disguised as jokes or casual comments, but the effect they have is devastating. That is why it is so important that you recognize each one of them. Because when a woman says these things, it is not just venting or a moment of anger, it is a clear sign that she does not respect who you are. And when respect ends, love cannot be sustained. So pay close attention to every detail. The first phrase is one that seems harmless, even funny, but reveals a deep lack of empathy. You're too sensitive. What's behind this phrase? An attempt to invalidate your feelings when you express discomfort or pain. She doesn't listen with compassion, she ridicules you. This attitude makes you start to question your own perception. Am I overreacting? Am I being weak? No. You're just being human. And every human being has the right to feel, to express themselves, to take a stand. If this phrase comes up often, it's a red flag. Because healthy love is accepting. Toxic love ridicules. When a woman calls you sensitive, she's saying that your feelings have no value. And over time, this destroys your self-esteem. You stop talking, you start swallowing everything, until one day you no longer recognize yourself. The second phrase is even more direct. You never do anything right. This is emotional aggression disguised as frustration. When you hear this, you feel that everything you do is wrong. And worse, you start to believe it. The relationship becomes an endless attempt to prove that you are good enough. But no matter how hard you try, how much you give in, how much you change, it will never be enough. Because the problem isn't you. It's the way she sees and treats you. This phrase creates an environment where mistakes are amplified and successes are ignored. Where you walk on eggshells, afraid of disappointing her. Where your identity is shaped by fear of criticism. And that's not a relationship. That's emotional torture. Loving is recognizing, praising, and building together. If all you hear is criticism and insults, there is no love, there is only control. The third phrase is a subtle but highly manipulative trap. You're just like my ex. This comparison is not innocent. It is meant to make you feel insecure. To make you feel guilty for things that are often not even your fault. From there, you start trying to differentiate yourself from her ex, doing things that don't make sense to you, just to distance yourself from the image she has created. This type of manipulation is dangerous. Because it creates a pattern where her past dictates your present. You cease to be yourself and become a projection of what she wants you to be. This robs you of your identity, your authenticity, your freedom. A relationship where you have to prove yourself all the time so you won't be compared to someone else is not love, it's emotional slavery. The fourth phrase is a classic example of emotional blackmail. If you loved me, you would do this for me. This phrase puts love as a bargaining chip. And love is not a bargain. When someone uses love as blackmail, they are completely distorting the concept of a healthy relationship. What she wants is not proof of love, it is submission. And every time you give in, you are teaching her that your love is for sale. This dynamic is extremely dangerous, because it puts you in a position of constant sacrifice. You stop doing what you believe in, you step over your values, all to prove something that shouldn't need proving. Love shows itself through respect, care, and presence, not through impositions. When love becomes a test, the relationship becomes a battlefield. And finally, the fifth phrase: you won't find anyone better than me. This is the phrase of emotional imprisonment. It wants you to believe that you are with someone irreplaceable, that you are in a relationship by luck, and that no one else will ever want you. This is one of the cruelest forms of manipulation, because it directly attacks your self-confidence, your ability to believe that you deserve something better. This phrase reveals a controlling mind, someone who wants to keep you trapped by fear. And when a relationship is maintained by fear, it's already over. True love sets you free. It makes you grow, it drives you, it values you. If you're with someone who puts you down so you won't leave, that's not love, it's domination. Now that you know these 5 phrases, it's time to look at your reality honestly. Have you heard any of them? Have you ever felt smaller after a conversation? Have you ever doubted yourself because of something she said? These are signs that something is deeply wrong. And ignoring these signs is opening the door to even greater suffering in the future. The truth is that we often cling to the hope that the person will change, that this is all just a phase. But how long are you going to wait? How many times are you going to stay silent? How many sleepless nights are you going to endure trying to understand what you did wrong? Maybe you didn't do anything wrong. Maybe the mistake is in staying in a place where you are not respected. So, if you identify with any of these phrases, stop. Reflect. Reevaluate. And above all, put yourself first. Your peace is worth more than any relationship. Your value does not depend on anyone else's validation. You don't have to prove anything to continue being worthy of love. Just be yourself. And being yourself should be enough for those who truly love you. And if this content made sense to you, don't keep it to yourself. Share it with someone who needs to hear it. Like, comment below, and subscribe to the channel. Let's create a space of awareness, respect, and truth together. A space where men's emotional health also matters. Because everyone deserves a relationship where love is healing, not hurt. After identifying these 5 phrases, what comes next is the most complex process of all, understanding the real impact they have on the listener. Because these words, although they may seem simple or even common to some people, are emotional weapons when used repeatedly and irresponsibly. They hurt, and the wounds they cause are not visible on the body, but accumulate in the heart and mind until the weight becomes unbearable. The first visible effect is a gradual loss of self-esteem. At first, it seems like just a passing doubt. Am I overreacting? Is she right? But as the phrases are repeated, that doubt turns into certainty. You start to believe that you really aren't good enough, that maybe the problem is you, and that you need to try harder, keep quiet, give in more. This is the most dangerous ground, because this is where self-confidence begins to erode from within. The relationship then becomes defensive. You wake up trying to predict her mood, choosing your words carefully, avoiding certain topics. All to avoid provoking another criticism, another cruel comment. And that's not love. That's tension disguised as care. A healthy emotional environment does not require this kind of constant vigilance. Loving should not be synonymous with walking on eggshells. Loving is being able to be who you are, without fear of emotional punishment. Over time, this defensive behavior turns into isolation. You distance yourself from friends, avoid sincere conversations with family members, and start making excuses not to go out. All because you know that any interaction outside of her control can become a reason for a fight. This silent manipulation is one of the most common forms of psychological control in abusive relationships. Isolation weakens your ties to the outside world and leaves you more vulnerable to emotional domination. And even if you realize all this is happening, getting out of this prison is not as simple as it seems. Because there is also the emotional factor, attachment, fear of loneliness, hope that she will change. Often, you find yourself trapped in good memories from the beginning of the relationship. Those moments when everything seemed perfect come back to mind as if they were a justification for putting up with what is happening now. But the truth is that good memories do not sustain toxic relationships. This is where many men enter into crisis. They can no longer identify whether the problem really lies with the woman or whether they are to blame for everything. This level of emotional confusion is one of the greatest weapons of psychological abuse. It puts you in a mental fog. You feel wrong all the time, even when you've done nothing wrong. And the more you try to please, the more is demanded of you. It's a bottomless pit. During this process, physical symptoms also appear. Your body begins to show signs that something is wrong: chest pains, insomnia, anxiety attacks, loss of appetite, muscle tension. This is because constant emotional stress turns into real physical suffering. Your body is trying to warn you that this environment is not safe. And ignoring these signs can lead you to the brink of mental exhaustion. It is also at this stage that the relationship goes through a cycle of bad days are followed by moments of intense affection. Heavy fights are followed by apologies accompanied by promises. This cycle creates emotional dependence. You begin to associate pain with love. Worse still, you believe that you have to endure the pain to deserve affection. This is one of the cruelest distortions that someone can experience in a toxic relationship. And when you try to talk about it, to explain how you feel, the response is usually a complete reversal of blame. She says you're being dramatic, that you're distorting everything, that you're making things up. This is called gaslighting. A manipulation technique where the other person distorts reality so that you doubt your own sanity. And when someone begins to doubt their own perception, they completely lose the power to react. As a result, you shut down. You avoid confrontation. You adapt more and more. You start to accept small acts of aggression as part of everyday life. And when you realize it, you no longer have a voice. You no longer recognize yourself. The man you were, with dreams, opinions, and your own identity, slowly disappears. And all that's left is someone living to please others, avoid conflict, and survive emotionally. But the most dangerous thing is that this can go on for years. Because emotional exhaustion doesn't happen all at once. It's slow, silent, and constant. It eats away at you from the inside, like a leak that no one sees until the wall collapses. And when that happens, it's often too late. There are already deep traumas, emotional scars, and baggage that will take a long time to heal. However, this is exactly where the turnaround can begin. When you start to realize that what you are experiencing is not normal. That it is not an exaggeration. That it is not just being dramatic. It is real pain. And real pain needs to be taken seriously. Awareness is the first step toward liberation. When you can see that these phrases, these attitudes, these manipulations are not acceptable, you begin to regain your strength. And regaining strength doesn't mean fighting or trying to change the other person. It means looking at yourself with compassion. Recognizing that you are hurt. That you need help. That you deserve something better. It means allowing yourself to rethink your life. Reevaluate your choices. Walk away from those who hurt you, even if it hurts. Because the pain of leaving is temporary. The pain of staying can be eternal. At this climactic moment, the most important question you can ask yourself is, what do I want from my life? Because a relationship is only a part of it. And if that part is destroying you, it's time to rebuild. It's time to choose yourself. To set boundaries. To say no to what takes you away from your essence. Because you have that right. The right to live in peace. The right to be respected. The right to love without fear. And that's where a new journey begins. The journey of rediscovering yourself. It's not easy, but it's possible. And every step is worth it. Because on the other side of fear, pain, and insecurity, there is a life you deserve to live. A life where you don't have to explain yourself all the time. Where you can sleep peacefully. Where you can be yourself, without fear of criticism, blackmail, or comparisons. If you've made it this far, it's because you're committed to your emotional health and ready to take the next step. So go ahead and subscribe to the channel right now. Here you'll find content that transforms, awakens, and shows what many avoid seeing. Turn on notifications so you don't miss any videos. And share with a friend who needs to hear these truths. You can make a difference in someone's life with just one click. Now, let's continue this journey. When a man recognizes that he is in a toxic relationship, he faces one of the most difficult decisions of his life. That's because it's not just about ending a relationship or marriage, it's about giving up a routine, a dream, a structure that, even if flawed, occupied an important emotional space. But this is the great truth that many ignore: sometimes you have to deconstruct in order to rebuild better. When deciding to leave a toxic relationship, men go through several stages. The first is mourning. Yes, mourning. Because even though they knew the relationship was bad for them, there was still a bond. There was still affection, even if it was corrupted. And when that breaks, emptiness sets in. That's when many people backtrack, relapse, and reopen doors that should have remained closed. And not because they miss the person themselves, but because of what that relationship represented emotionally. The second phase is internal confrontation. The moment when you start to reflect on everything you've been through, and it all starts to sink in. You begin to see clearly how much you were manipulated, devalued, disrespected. And along with that clarity comes anger. Anger at not having realized it before, anger at having allowed so much to happen. But this anger should not be repressed. It is part of the healing process. It shows that you are reacting, awakening, picking yourself up. Then comes reconstruction. The most delicate and, at the same time, most powerful phase. This is when you start to look at yourself with new eyes. You realize how much you've changed, how much you've matured, and how much you need to take care of yourself from now on. That's when self-love begins to blossom. And when self-love is reborn, you stop accepting crumbs. You understand that you deserve the whole banquet. And you start to better select who enters your life. Rebuilding also involves redefining values. You start to value silence more than toxic company. The hard truth more than comfortable lies. Mutual respect more than unbalanced passion. You learn to say no. You learn to set boundaries. You learn that protecting your peace is more important than maintaining a social image of a happy couple. And that, in itself, is a victory. Another important point in this phase is strengthening your support network. Reconnect with friends, family, and people who really care about you. Because during a toxic relationship, many of these bonds were weakened or even severed. But the good news is that the real ones remain. And it is in them that you will find support, advice, and, above all, acceptance. And little by little, you realize that you no longer need that relationship to feel complete. You become enough for yourself. You start to enjoy your own company. You make plans without depending on approval. You live lightly, freely, and truthfully. And when that happens, you understand how necessary it was to go through all that. Because even with all the pain, it was the pain that led you to awakening. But it's important to understand that the healing process is not linear. There will be good days and bad days. There will be moments of doubt, longing, insecurity. But that doesn't mean you're going backwards. It just means you're feeling, living, processing. And that's healthy. Don't expect perfection. Allow yourself to live each stage with patience and honesty. Because that's how true healing happens. Over time, you will find someone new. And when that happens, you will be more prepared. You will recognize warning signs that previously went unnoticed. You will appreciate simple gestures. You will seek reciprocity. And most importantly, you will no longer accept anything less than you deserve. Because now you know exactly what you don't want. And knowing what you don't want is a big step toward finding what you really need. And when you look back, you'll feel proud. Proud that you didn't settle for less than you deserve. Proud that you chose yourself. Proud that you had the courage. Because being strong isn't about putting up with everything. Being strong is recognizing when it's time to stop. To say enough is enough. To walk away. And no one can take that strength away from you. If this video touched you in any way, if it opened your eyes, if it brought you clarity, Don't keep it to yourself. Share it. Spread the message. Help other men see what is often ignored. Let's break the silence together, destroy toxic patterns, and build a new reality. And of course, subscribe to the channel right now. This is a place of truth, acceptance, and learning. Every week we have new videos that will help you strengthen your mind, your heart, and your choices. Turn on the bell to be notified first. And in the comments, tell us about your experience. Have you been through something like this? Do you know someone who has? Your story can help others too. And stay tuned, because in the next video we'll talk about the invisible signs of emotional control. Those that often go unnoticed, but are even more dangerous. You won't want to miss it. Until then, remember, love is freedom, respect, and lightness. And if it's not like that, it's not love.